By the time I learned the truth, only $412 remained from my husband's $89,000 life insurance policy, and the woman who had drained nearly all of it was being honored by our church for 35 years of service. My name is Dorothy Mayfield. I'm 71 years old, and for 38 years, I sat in the third pew from the front at Cedar Grace Missionary Baptist Church in Savannah, Georgia. I never missed a Sunday, not even after my husband Frank died 3 years ago, because the woman sitting beside me in that pew, Sister Loretta Combs, told me God would carry me through it. She held my hand at the funeral. She brought me casseroles for 6 straight weeks. And when the paperwork got to be too much for me, she offered to help. I signed a financial power of attorney, naming her as my agent in the fellowship hall, on a folding table, 3 weeks after I buried the man I had been married to for more than 4 decades. Loretta brought 2 witnesses from the congregation and a notary she said she trusted. I want you to remember that detail because it matters later. Cedar Grace sits on a quiet corner near Forsyth Park, a white clapboard building with a bell tower. We were married in that sanctuary more than 4 decades ago and held the funeral for our stillborn daughter there a few years later. Loretta sang at that service, her voice cracking with what I once believed was love. For more than 40 years, that building held every important moment of my life. I never once imagined it could also hold the moment someone decided to rob me. Everyone at Cedar Grace knew Sister Loretta, deaconess for 35 years, head of the Widows and Shut-ins ministry, the woman Reverend Curtis Boone called the very heartbeat of this congregation from the pulpit at least twice a month. She organized the benevolence fund, the envelopes we all dropped our extra dollars into on the first Sunday. She had managed that fund for as long as I could remember. So when she said, "Dottie, honey, let me handle Frank's insurance money until you're steady on your feet," I didn't think twice. I was drowning in grief. She was a life raft. For the first year, it seemed fine. She paid my mortgage and utilities, then sent me a small allowance from my own money every month. There were little things I noticed and immediately explained away. A new Buick in her driveway that spring. A blessing from a grateful family, she told the sewing circle. Pearl earrings that looked real, not the costume ones she used to wear. Have you ever wanted to believe someone so badly that you stopped trusting your own eyes? There was another sign I buried even deeper. My neighbor Cornelia mentioned that she'd seen the words Combs Family Properties on a rental sign 2 streets over. That must belong to one of Loretta's relatives, I told her. I said it like I actually knew. The first crack came in September, 18 months after Frank passed. I needed $12,000 for hip replacement surgery my Medicare supplement wouldn't fully cover. I called Loretta. She said the account was a little tight this month, and she'd sort it out. A little tight. Frank's policy had paid out $89,000. Even after the mortgage and utilities, there should have been more than enough left for my surgery. I was in pain, still sleeping badly, and ashamed that I no longer understood my own finances. When Loretta said she would handle it, I wanted the conversation to be over more than I wanted answers. I let it go. She brought me a casserole that Thursday, and I let it go again. Can you imagine trusting someone so completely that even your own suspicion feels like a sin? By November, the surgery still hadn't happened. I finally drove myself to the bank on Abercorn Street, something I hadn't done in over a year because Loretta always handled it. The teller, a young woman named Priya, pulled up my account, the one Loretta had been managing under the power of attorney, and her face changed in a way I'll never forget. She came back with the branch manager. The balance was $412, nearly all of Frank's $89,000, gone. The manager slid a printout across the counter, and I saw the withdrawals going back over a year, most of them wired to something called Combs Family Properties LLC. I want to tell you I confronted her that same day. I didn't. I drove home and sat in my car for 2 hours, building excuses for her. Maybe she had invested it. Maybe she was growing it. Maybe. You won't believe what I found 3 days later, when my son Marcus helped me pull the LLC's state business filings and the county property records. Combs Family Properties owned 4 rental houses in the Kyla Brownsville neighborhood. 4. Each had been purchased within the last 6 years. Each one fell within months of a widow in our congregation losing her husband. Miss Evelyn Watts, Miss Ruthie Pinckney, Sister Odessa James, and me. Over the next several days, Marcus contacted their families and asked to see the bank records. Every family told us almost the exact same story. After each husband died, Loretta had offered to help, and each widow had signed a financial power of attorney naming her as agent, just like I had. Marcus, who had worked in insurance claims for nearly 20 years, noticed something else. The same notary seal appeared on all 4 powers of attorney. Here's the part that still keeps me up at night. Miss Evelyn Watts, God rest her, had tried to raise questions about missing benevolence fund money almost 8 years ago. Reverend Boone stood at that very pulpit and gently suggested Sister Evelyn's memory wasn't what it used to be, and that grief could make a mind play tricks. The congregation nodded along. We all nodded along. Miss Evelyn stopped coming to service within the month. She died 2 years later in the cheapest assisted living facility her family could find, alone, with almost no one visiting her. We didn't call it what it was. We called it the Lord working in mysterious ways, when really it was a woman being silenced so a scheme could keep running. Was I complicit just by nodding along with everyone else? Evelyn's niece agreed to meet me for coffee that week. She told me her aunt had repeated the same sentence for years, right up until she passed. Sister Loretta has Robert's money. Nobody had believed her. Marcus wanted to go straight to the police. I asked him to give me 2 weeks, until the church's dinner honoring Loretta. During those 2 weeks, Marcus spoke with a woman on the finance committee who had been suspicious for years. She gave him copies of the church's financial records. When Marcus combined the property records, the bank transfers, the old benevolence ledgers, and the statements from the widows' families, the pattern stretched back nearly 20 years. The 4 houses were only the part we could trace clearly. Older ledger entries suggested smaller, unexplained withdrawals for years before that. Based on the records she gave us, Marcus estimated that at least $340,000 had disappeared. Then we found something worse. Combs Family Properties had been sending regular checks into a discretionary account Reverend Boone used for his own travel and personal expenses. I found Loretta in the fellowship hall 2 weeks later, at the dinner the church was throwing in her honor for 35 years of faithful service. There was a banner, a plaque already engraved. Reverend Boone stood beside her, beaming, ready to hand it over. Neither of them knew yet what Marcus and I were holding. I walked up before he could speak. I set the bank printout, the property deeds, and the church's own financial records on the table in front of the plaque. "Loretta," I said, "where is Frank's $89,000? The room went dead silent. She reached for my hand, the way she always did, and said, "Dottie, honey, you're confused. Let's talk about this privately." "I'm not confused," I said. "I'm the only one in this room who finally isn't." I laid out the names: Evelyn, Ruthie, Odessa, me. 4 widows, 4 houses, 1 LLC. Then I turned to Reverend Boone. "And these payments went to you," I said. I read the deposit dates from the discretionary account out loud, one by one, until the confusion on his face gave way to defeat. He hadn't just looked away. He had been profiting from her scheme for years. Someone in the back of the fellowship hall gasped when I said the Reverend's name. Nearly 4 decades in that pew almost made me apologize for disrupting the dinner. Loretta didn't cry. She didn't apologize. She looked at that room full of people who had been ready to honor her only minutes earlier, and she said, "I have given my whole life to this church, like the houses, the Buick, the pearls, were simply owed to her." The next morning, Marcus and I gave the police everything and met with an attorney who specialized in elder financial abuse. Reverend Boone resigned within the month, quietly, with a farewell sermon about seasons of transition. Months passed without an arrest, and the investigation stayed open. Our attorney eventually negotiated a civil settlement with Loretta, Boone, and the church. 3 of the 4 houses were sold, but debts attached to them swallowed most of the proceeds, so we recovered only a fraction of what had been taken. The 4th house, the one most directly traced to Frank's money, remains tied up in court to this day. Marcus helped me work out a payment plan with the hospital, and I finally had my hip surgery that winter, without $1 of Frank's money left to pay for it. I still see Loretta sometimes at the Kroger. I don't nod back anymore. Some folks at Cedar Grace still defend her, saying judgment belongs to God alone, and that airing it publicly embarrassed the church. Half the congregation left with me for a smaller church on Waters Avenue, where no one person controls the benevolence fund, and every withdrawal requires 3 signatures. The other half stayed, sang the same hymns, sat in the same pews Loretta used to fill. I still go to service every Sunday. I still believe in God, just as I always have. What I don't believe in anymore is a title. Deaconess, pastor, sister. I learned the hard way that a title is not the same thing as a conscience. So I'll ask you the same question I ask myself every single week when the offering plate passes down my pew. When someone spends decades convincing an entire congregation they're the most faithful person in the room, at what point does our need to believe them become the very thing that lets them get away with it? And if that were your mother or grandmother sitting alone in that fellowship hall, would you have caught it sooner than I did, or would you have nodded along too?